Hello, hello. All right, guys. So, if you are new to watching me live, my name is Raven Woods. I'm the CEO and founder of Autism Mama Rocks IEP, and I help parents gain the knowledge and the confidence to become the CEO of their IEP meeting. All right, so nowadays things are crazy, and I don't know about your schools or what's going on with your districts, but from the IEPs I've been in, it's been nuts. I'm not really sure which is crazier, last year or this year. Honestly, two different ends of the spectrum, to be quite honest. Because the kids, most of them are not home, so it's a little bit different. But I mean, nightmare, this whole COVID thing. But, at the same time, it's not even so much COVID anymore. It's the implementation of IEPs just being complete shit. And I'm just going to call it how it is, Um, and today I'm talking about me talking in the IEP meeting. Okay. And I'm going to talk to you about how things go and flow and why I do some of the things that I do that many of you may or may not know. And I'm excited too because I have some things in the works that have actually changed of things that I'm going to offer. So excited about it in collaboration with another advocate that I really respect. And we're going to do something a little bit different that I think a lot of you are going to like. And I think it's something that's really needed. All right. Obviously, it's going to be for certain people. Okay. Just like everything. But I think the people that do this with us are going to be awesome. Yeah. Awesome. So with that said, post a 1 below if it's your first through third time catching me live. Okay, come on, you can do it. Click the link I am putting in the chat right now if you are in the group. Okay, so click that link, whatever it is, streamyard.com/Facebook, because if you're in a group or if it's on my personal page, you have to, click that so I can see your little circle picture, kind of like Ashley. Hopefully you don't mind me doing this, Ashley. She has her picture right here with her beautiful haircut, and she is able to put a comment there. Okay. But if you're on the group and you don't put that link in and just say yes, then I'll just see like a blank. So I'll see your comment, but I'll just see a blank. I won't see who you are. So the answer to your question, Ashley, is you can go to your state website, or you can hire someone like myself or somebody that does, all over the US. I didn't make my goal of 2022, where I wanted to make all 50 states by January. But I didn't. I did 47 though. 47 last year. So I did 47 states and my goal was 50, but it's okay. I did 47. So what state are you in? And welcome. I see that you're new. Where are you located? Hi, Kristen. How are you? All right. So Hawaii, Alaska, and New Mexico. Nightmare states, New York, Pennsylvania, Illinois. Those 3 states are the worst. New York, Pennsylvania, Illinois. I mean, shoot, my own state sucks. But no, I mean, I had an amazing, I'm going to tell you about that today. And then IEP. And then I have another one that's a freaking nightmare. Hanover is excellent. And I'm going to tell you straight up who they are. Hampton City Schools, the worst. Horrible people. And they're horrible because they will not provide or admit that for 14 years, they have not educated a child to read. And as Mom and I have discussed, and this goes into color, okay? So minorities and African American and, everybody that is in that minority category has it was an 86%, and this is all over the US of these numbers. And even, what is his name? I'll have to look up his name real quick on my TV. He did a show on it, on how of African American children, 86% were illiterate. That's unacceptable. Unacceptable. And it's disgusting to even say. And, in my mind, it even comes down to civil rights. And, this school district doesn't even want to fathom the thought that they owe this child compensatory services and a lot more. So, we're having to take other measures, as you know, but it's disgusting. It's disgusting. So, and that's just statistics in one area, and yeah, and this was even in discussing with board members and directors of special education and superintendents, this show that I watched. I took some video of it, and so I actually will post so you guys can see. I only took clips, but they're really short, so I can post them on the group and the page for you guys to see what I'm talking about. But here, let me show you. I forgot his name. It's on my TV. I'll tell you when I post it, but maybe you guys have recognized him. All right, look.
State of New York, 88% of Black children cannot do basic math.
Can you hear this?
And are functionally illiterate. In the state of California, the biggest state in our nation, 87% of Black children cannot do basic math.
Here's the next one.
Of Black children cannot do basic math, and 91% are functionally illiterate.
So this was, I forgot his name. But anyway, he did all these states, okay? I mean, 86%, 96% of children being illiterate. That's unacceptable, And so, I can't get in trouble with this school district and they can kiss my butt because guess what? It's fact. What they're doing is fact. The IEE, their own evaluation, and a Linda Mood Bell evaluation, all in sync with each other. But they're in denial. The child's 6 years behind. And they're like, oh, she's making progress. She's making progress. She's making progress. She's making progress. I don't give a shit. So this is how you got to look at things. Let me explain this to you. When you have a child that, let's just say 2 years behind, all right, you got to backtrack it and figure out how they became 2 years behind and what it is that their progress is. So then you negate from where they are now and how long it will take to get them caught up. Then you take that amount of time and you subtract that from them moving on in the years, and they stay the same. So unless something is done, they're going to stay behind. You see what I'm saying? So if your child is 2, 3, 4 years behind, look at the fact that if they're in sixth grade and they're on a fourth grade level, all right? Well, it took them 6 years to be on a fourth grade level. Okay. So then you have to continue that, all right, that number, and you're going to see how long it takes them. So in eighth grade, they're going to be what? Possibly on a sixth grade level. I don't know. In 10th grade, they're going to possibly be on an eighth grade level. You never know. So if nothing's being done about it, they stay 2, 3, 4, or it just becomes a domino effect. And so that's why things don't improve. We have those great situations where they do improve. I'm not saying that doesn't ever happen, but reading is a huge issue today. I mean, it's just hands down, it's an issue. It's not just him who's saying it. It's so many other researchers and scientists, and there's so much science and research behind it. And schools are just not wanting to have a come to Jesus moment and realize that this is what's up. I mean, if a child can't read, forget about education. I mean, they're not going to be able to do anything. They're not going to be able to write because they can't read. They're not going to be able to really formulate sentences because they don't understand words. Science and social studies are out of the question, especially social studies, because you read 90% of the time. I'll never forget when I lived in Texas. It was in ninth grade. I had to take freaking Texas history. Please, just kill me now. It's horrible. And so, it's just so frustrating. So I talk a lot in IEP meetings. I'll tell you why. Because in most of my IEP meetings, I'm having to educate educators or administrators or convince administrators by educating them why things are the way they are, because they've become, it's not that they're stupid or ignorant or anything like that. And I don't think that everybody, I try not to say everybody or nobody or always or never, because I don't want to look like I'm just blaming everybody, because I'm not. But at the same time, as much as I'm in IEP meetings on a daily basis, I mean, I very rarely have a day where I don't have an IEP. And I mean, I'm like, oh, when I don't. And I still don't get to do errands and everything else because I'm busy looking at evaluations or checking emails. I mean, I could check emails all day. I mean, I should have a job checking emails, literally, with school districts and everything. I mean, I could take all day checking emails because that's how they come in. It's insane. But bottom line, that's frustrating for any advocate, you know? It's not being fabulous, like it's frustrating. IEPs are great, but, and actually I got you, give me a second. It's frustrating having to educate them on the law. I'm not an attorney, but how is it? I know the law with the back of my hand. And if I don't, I find out. And because nobody knows everything, right? And then I'm having to teach them the law. I mean, I had a school. I called her out today, and this is in Illinois, Pennsylvania, and New York, where she said they sent me data, and my child has this one. Good. Where this is what she said to the parent. Okay, well, here's the number one thing. All right, they're purposely leaving me out, which is kind of funny, because my parents and we become tight. And so, hello, there's nothing you're going to tell the parent that they're not going to tell me, and they're not going to talk to you really. And so you trying to use them, and you think they're not going to come to me, you're wrong. And so, this parent called me panicking. She's like, oh my God, what do I do? the coordinator called me from the school, and they have actually ganged up on her. She picks up her son, and because I've nailed their ass in the IEP meeting because they have no data, she we're not doing that, Sky.
All right.
Okay, give me a few minutes. Okay.
Yeah.
So they finally admitted, okay, we didn't take data for 3 years. And okay, but I did tell them that. I said, you know what? I know you didn't take data. You know you didn't take data. Quit bullshitting me. If you didn't take data, you know what? There's nothing we can do other than make complaints. Okay? So you might as well just come clean about it. Tell me you didn't take data, and we move forward and start from here, not look in the past. Now, that doesn't mean we're not making a complaint. We absolutely are. But we don't look in the past and we keep it moving, because if you can't be transparent, what do you got? And, she finally said, and this was in the IEP meeting. And then today, when I called her, because they're bulldozing the parent again, I called her out on it. And she said, well, I told the parent, we don't have anything. But from now on, we're taking data, how you want us to take data. And in my mind, I'm thinking, how was that? Did you really understand what I told you and how to take it? And so, they've bulldozed this mom and kind of like pushed her against a corner when she picks up her son every day. And no joke, the director of special education came out with the coordinator, okay, the day after an IEP meeting that blew the hell up in the sky because I had nailed them on every last thing. OCR, violation of not allowing the parents to participate as equal team members, no data, no progress reports being sent at the appropriate time. I mean, I had nailed their ass so far against the wall that the attorney's head was spinning. And he didn't say shit. I mean, he couldn't. What was he going to say? I mean, I had nailed them. So they rush out to the parent the next day and are like, what can we do? We don't want to do that. So she calls me. I'm on the phone while they're talking. And, I'm sitting there thinking like, oh my God, they're like panicking. And, no, we don't have remorse for you at this point. It's like the first meeting you should have came clean and said, we screwed up. That's all I ask for, and then you rectify it. That's all I want from school districts. We understand they all screw up. If you think they're never going to screw up, they are. I promise you. But all I ask for is just admit it and say we screwed up, which they're not going to say. But even though they don't say it, I have school systems just make it right. Okay. Now, this school system did say they didn't have data, so it is what it is. I mean, what else are they going to do? Because they know we have them on a FERPA violation. That's a federal violation. So, I mean, they were done. All right. They were just done, fried, done. And so they started bullying the parent and pushing her against the wall. And she's one of those, people. I get after her even. And I say, oh my gosh, you've got to tell them, leave me alone. Call my advocate. I don't want to talk to you. And she's just like, I don't know what to say. They just like come out and, I don't know what to say. And, then they tell me all these things and, they like overwhelm her, and that's just not cool, knowing that she's, not going to be Raven. She's not me, she's not going to say, get the hell away from my car. I'm not talking to you, which is what I would say, where she starts to panic. And that's just not cool to put someone in that position knowing that they're not going to say anything. That is bullying, and not everybody has a bold personality like me, and not everybody, is going to tell someone off, because they know, no, you're not doing that. You're not getting in my space like that. Because they don't want to be like that, or they don't want to, speak up, that they feel stuck, and I get that. And, but I also don't respect human beings who back people up against a corner knowing that they're not going to speak up because they're afraid and intimidated. And, it's kind of like when, school districts do that to parents because parents start to advocate, and then, your child was absent and they threaten you with truancy. Or, the other one's CPS, where I have to tell parents, you know what, just start covering your ass. I start, years ago. I started taking timestamp photos of Skylar before she walked out my door and the minute she walked back in. And, literally every place. All right. Um, and the minute she walked back in, you know, and then I have, to today, I have the app. It's called, because she has her cell phone, and I have an app called Life 360, and it literally tells me um, when she leaves my house, where she's at, the speed in which the driver is going, when she arrives somewhere, when she's at a stoplight, if she got in an accident, all kinds of stuff. Maps, how far she is from me, everything. Um, and like I can even yes. And I even set it up where she knows how to call 911, and I know how to call for her if something happens. So it's really kind of cool. But the thing is, you know, just when school districts do that, it's not cool. Okay. Now it doesn't record. That's not allowed, and I don't do that. Um, and I know there's programs. I had a parent use it once. I don't remember what it was called, but it recorded the student like everywhere he went. It was kind of cool. Um, Tracked him and everything. It was kind of crazy. I forgot what the name was. Um, but anyway, I talk a lot in IEP meetings because I'm educating. Do I wish I didn't have to all the time? Yes, I get exhausted. Um, but things have worked out the past year, because it doesn't mean I haven't had shit show IEPs and we had to go back and deal with it. But just to give an example, the 27th of January, I had an IEP meeting with a parent. And, this district, it started off a little rocky, not bad, but rocky. I think they were more on the defensive, like, holy shit, what do we expect of this person coming in? I held them accountable. Have they violated? Absolutely. But, we're just kind of going through the motions and seeing what they do, because they are stepping up. And this parent has 2 children, same district. And, the 27th, we went through the IEP, the present levels. I went through the evaluations that they did, and they added all the things I wanted added to the present levels. Every deficit that I wanted pinpointed based on things that I wanted to create goals from, they added. And so that was me talking through the IEP meeting, because I was saying, I want you to add that the child can't recognize, upper and lowercase letters, or, whatever the case was. That, actually I have it right here. That in occupational therapy, the child has fine motor coordination, visual motor coordination, control of movements, and it's a severe weakness. I wanted it noted how many CVC words she knew. And I wanted to know, of those CVC words, how all the words that she knew 70. Scratch that. She knew 70 sight words. The teacher did not know how many CVC words she knew. And so I said, you need to go find out. All right, you should actually already know, because she said that she knew CVC words, but she didn't know how many. So I told her to go find out. And then, but she said the child knew 70. The child's supposed to know 90 at her grade level, which is second grade. So in second grade, you're supposed to know 90 sight words, and 60 in first grade. And so I said, of the sight words, how many does she know the definition to, of the ones that you can have a definition? because like if, the, you know what I mean? Those don't really have a definition. But so then I said, can she put them in sentences? All right. Um, because what I was doing was I was trying to figure out in the reading arena, where do I need to start her out foundationally? Okay. And foundationally, I need to know, does she recognize her letters? Yes. Does she have most of her sight words? She knows 70 out of 90. Great. Okay. Of those 70, can she define them all and or put them into a sentence? Yes or no? Teacher didn't know. She's going to go find out. CVC words. How many CVC words does she know? How many can she paint a picture of? They didn't know that. So I have been trained in what's called visualizing and verbalizing with Linda Mood Bell. And so what that is, you know, the way in which to teach reading that works. It's where when you take a word, because a child, just like riding a bike, you have to start at the foundation. You don't just jump on a bike and bam, I know how to ride. Shit, me getting on a bike as an adult, I got to figure it out again. Just saying. I'm like, oh shit, I'm getting old. But it then comes, right? But as a kid, you're getting on a bike and you got to figure out how to steer, how to, you know, pedal at the same time and all these different things, right? And you have your parents, you know, holding onto the side and riding with you and, you know, they're learning the way to go. And I explain it this way because, you know, we're born to speak. We all have language when we're born, whether that is, you know, verbally or sign language or any other way. But what we aren't born to know is how to ride a bike and how to read. That's taught. And so the first thing with reading is word recognition. All right. Look up what's called the Scarborough's rope. All right. And there's umbrellas. So there's word recognition, language, knowledge, and then comprehension. And under word recognition is that is your umbrella. And then there's things underneath it, phonemic awareness, rhyming, decoding, etc. Then you have your language knowledge umbrella, and then everything under that, where that's vocabulary and all of those different things. Okay. Phonics and so forth. And then you move on to comprehension. That will just automatically come once they have the other two. All right. So today I was explaining, I was like, look, guys, the reason I'm doing this, the reason I'm asking you how many CVC words does she know? How many sight words does she know? Does she know the definitions of the sight words that she can define? And if the ones that she can't define, like if, the, etc., then can she make a sentence out of them on her own independently? And then I said, you know, the CVC words, can she define them? Okay, so one of the CVC words for a second grader is scab, SCAB. All right, so I said, so here's a visualizing, verbalizing example for you. So I would say to my daughter, I would say, okay, scab. And then I would put that on a, you know, an index card. And then I would have my daughter read it. What is this word? Scab. Okay, what is that? Tell me what that is. What is a scab? And then I would, when you're first teaching a child, you're teaching them by helping them paint a picture. All right. So I would do I do, you do, we do approach. All right. I'm just giving you an example if you want to work with your own kids with this. So I would say to my daughter, I would say, okay, well, a scab, that's when if mommy fell and I got a boo boo on my, depending on your child. Okay, she's 16. So I would say if mom fell to her, but if you have a little one, you can say if mommy fell, you know, and I got a boo boo on my knee and it started to bleed, then mom would have to clean it off. And then mom would get a scab when it starts to heal, you know? And then if that child cannot recognize that word, they may be able to read scab. But if they can't recognize that word, meaning, then you're telling them, you're teaching them. There has to be a teaching part. You can't just say, oh, what's a scab? Okay. So you're teaching them, okay, a scab is when mommy falls. And if, you know, then you bleed and then you have, you know, the hardness in the scab and that's when it heals, blah, blah, blah. Right. So after it's taught, it then moves into, okay, Skylar. So, you know, she reads the word scab, never a picture. Okay. And then she then heard me teach her what is a scab, and I would give her various different reasons. And that's when I would show her the word. Okay. When I'm describing it, that's when I could show a picture of, say, someone who has a boo-boo, and it became a scab, or that there's a Band-Aid on it, and when it heals, it looks like this. You can show them a visual of that word, but you want them to recognize that word first. Then, as you're teaching them, you can show them a picture of what that looks like so that that teaching is associated and it becomes typically a known and familiar word. You've probably heard of familiar and unfamiliar words. Well, that's a familiar word because it typically will happen in everyday life and it's something that they're exposed to, where unfamiliar word is going to be a much more difficult word to recognize that word and then be able to visualize it. And when you visualize it, okay, when I then have taught her and then I'm expecting her to then respond and I say, okay, what's a scab? Then at first it will start with prompting, okay, especially with a child that's having difficulty with reading and understanding the knowledge of that word to be able to what's called paint that picture or formulate a movie in their head based on a word. Okay. And this then leads them to being able to have written sentences out of that word, being able to create a sentence, which is a building block. Okay. Recognizing the word, describing the word. Okay. And vocalizing that. And then be able to then build off that and move to writing sentences in regards to that word. Okay. And so, because they're expanding on their vocabulary, all right, of that understanding of visualizing it and then verbalizing it. And then written expression comes later as their understanding and being able to dissect what that word is what I like to call it. And so if I'm talking about a dolphin, okay, Sky likes animals in the sea or in the ocean. So if I say, okay, Sky, she reads the word dolphin, Dolphin, right? Not seeing a picture. All right. And I'll say, so tell me, where does a dolphin live? What does dolphins do? What do dolphins eat? And then she starts formulating a movie in her head, in her mind, and those pictures. And then she starts telling me about them. Okay. That, she used to say things like dolphins live in the ocean. She would say dolphins live in SeaWorld. Yeah, they do. She would say, dolphins eat fish. And she would do things like that. And, she's older. And so she will look on YouTube. And so that's made her really smart, that she looks it up and she sees what they do. And I taught her how to take her iPhone and say, hey, Siri, show me dolphins, or how do you spell this word? And she really likes that. And I say, if mom doesn't know something, mom looks it up. I am a Google genius. And so I've taught her to do that on her own. And sometimes she'll get frustrated because she's texting. All right. So this is something that builds too. So texting can actually be a good thing for your children in practice to like grandma or grandpa or sister or brother, and practicing using words. All right. And so she texts my mom, and if she doesn't know a word, she'll get really frustrated and she'll say, Mom, how do you spell this? And I'll say, I don't know. Look it up. And I'll say, use your Siri. Say, hey, Siri, how do you spell? And she has some speech issues. So, yesterday she screamed at her phone because she knew, she's very clear on the fact that she doesn't say things as fluently as you or I do. Okay. But Siri actually understands her when she starts screaming and says that word. And so it's kind of cute to see, but it's really good to see as well. And exciting for me because she's building her language knowledge, all right, on her own now. She may ask for a little bit of help, but after I say, look it up yourself, ask Siri, and now she's initiating that on her own. And so when you're asking your child after you've taught them, like you can look at YouTube, you can look at pictures, you can read a book to them, you can read to them. And then when you read to them, say they can't read and you're reading a book on whatever it is that you want. One of my favorite books used to be, what is it? The Hungry Caterpillar. What is it? The Hungry Little Cat. Babe, what is it called? The Hungry Little Caterpillar. Do you guys know what it is? Do you know what book I'm talking about? The Very Hungry Caterpillar. And so that's a fun book, right? Or Good Night Moon was another one of my favorites. Um, and so you just ask the child to paint a picture, okay? The very hungry caterpillar. And so, how much? What did the caterpillar eat? They had cupcakes and all this kind of stuff, and they're painting a picture of that book that they just read. Where with this situation that I'm talking about, I'm saying you're painting a picture with the word you just read. All right. And so you help them build that knowledge, and then you expand your words. Okay. And so it becomes more fun, I think. And it's a great way to teach reading because it's an I do, you do, we do approach, no negativity. Even if you're saying, hey, where do the dolphins live? And they say, in the cove. Okay, we all know that the dolphins don't live in the cove, but that's when you then you backtrack and you start back with the I do approach. Up, the you do didn't work. Okay, backtrack and do it again. All right. Is there a way to get a list of sight words and CV words our kids should know? I know Pinterest has tons of things. Um, but what I would do is I would ask the teacher, give me the list of sight words that my child knows. Hey, Hannah. That's what I would say. Just email the teacher and say, can I have the list of sight words that my child knows? And I would say, how many sight words does my child know? And have them tell you. Don't accept, oh, I don't know. Don't know. You work with my child. How many do they know? And then every single one, have them send you the list. But I mean, if you just want to know generalized, what second grade, CVC words are or sight words, you can just look up the pictures on, Pinterest or something like that. I mean, you could Google it and just click like images. But then again, they range because school districts will use different type of sight words and with different, programs that they can use. And sometimes they're a little bit random and sometimes they're different, not so much, but, it's good to know what your child is learning and the sight words that they're learning. And then the next year, you'll be able to then have that data, so to speak, of what the words they know and work with them at home. But then you'll also know if the next year those words are expanded upon, and so that's important. And again, that's what I'm doing in IEP meetings is today I had to explain to them what I just explained to you of how they can teach this child. Okay. And I explained to them that, I'm not trying to talk their ear off. I'm not trying to, boss them around. I'm not telling them that they don't know anything or, that what they're doing is wrong or whatever. But I am saying, hey, what we're doing right now isn't really working. And, you know, I love, this is what I said to them today. I love figuring out a puzzle. I hate doing puzzles physically, but I like figuring out things in my brain and coming up with a solution and figuring out, okay, this child's struggling, and this is where my frustrations come with education and the people involved. Because, and I've been listening to a lot of teachers, and as supportive as I am, and again, my oldest is a teacher, um, I have gotten a little bit pissed off at the things I've been seeing where teachers are on social media saying, oh, we're going to all quit. And, what's it called? Where they like say, do this or we're not coming back to work. What's that called? Totally like brain fart. What is it? What's it called? Anyway, they said, we're not going to come back to school until this happens or something. They're all gonna like not show up at school. I mean, I'm like, are we in fucking high school? Seriously? I mean, I get that you shouldn't be treated like crap. Totally get that. But I'm like, the only people suffering, honestly, strike, yeah, is the kids. I'm like, I'm just trying to figure out like what's the right thing. No, they don't deserve to be treated like crap. I mean, administration. But at the same time, to have that as a discussion on like social media, versus like make your own choices and decisions versus like follow the crowd. I know it's a horrible thing, to actually stand out and people judge you actually being a single person making your own choices and decisions. God forbid. Who cares if people want to judge? Everybody judges, be you, do you, and be comfortable with that. That's just my thoughts. If people got an opinion, fine. We all got an opinion, you know? So I'm frustrated with that. And I'm frustrated with the things that are being said. I mean, there's a teacher on TikTok, and I get it. I don't know her situation, but she like literally has a TikTok page on that she quit and how much she hates it and this, and this. And I just feel like that in today's day with everything that's going on, it's just not appropriate. And, kids are on TikTok, not just adults. And, these are things that are being seen. These are things that are being heard. I always grew up with, what you're subjected to is what you grow to know as okay. And this is what kids are seeing, and teenagers are seeing. And then they're running with it and making things on their own in reference to it. It's just not a good example. Even though these things are going on as adults, we need to handle them as adults, not put them out on social media for all children to see, specifically teenagers as well, and blast social media with how much you hate teaching, because that's really going to make a teenager love school. Do you know what I mean? And so it's a little bit counterproductive in what really needs to be happening. We need to fix our educational system, not screw it up anymore. We need to resolve problems with administration and so forth, not create more. So it's this tough thing, because on the other note, we have teachers that are being abused and not treated right, and things that they shouldn't have to be subjected to. So it's rough. So as I spoke for like 15 minutes on that, my point is that I told the teachers, like today and in other meetings, look, I'm not knocking you at all. I'm just, just have an open mind in the sense that, we are not taught how to teach to read. All right. Schools may offer and give you a 40-hour training or whatever, but honestly, most schools these days are not investing in their teachers, and they should be, and supporting them, and they're not. And then we have where they're given like a 40-hour training, and they're all of a sudden a qualified person to give reading instruction to a child that's 2, 3, 4 years or whatever behind. So that's rough. But when a child is struggling with reading, unfortunately, the first person you have to accept, if they fight it, I mean, obviously ask for something else, but the first person you have to accept as the person that's going to deliver that direct instruction, all right, or specially designed instruction is what it's called in special education terms. Skylar, calm down. So basically, so we have to accept the special ed teacher doing it first. And what I will do is I'll give it 60 to 90 days. If it doesn't work, then you can move on, all right, to whoever you want. Because at that point, they can't do it, and you have the data at that point. And I will send my parents to Linda Mood Bell, get an evaluation. So I have like a baseline before they start with the teacher. And then at the end to show me, has that child made progress? All right. And then, of course, the school does their own stuff. But all of theirs is subjective. Mine is objective. And, but they'll swear up and down that that child's making progress. But they can't show me anything that that child's making progress. Okay. So that's where the fight comes in because, oh, they're making progress. Okay. Show me the data. It's non existent. We observe them every day. I mean, it's like, okay, great. That's awesome. Awesome. So we really have to be mindful of what we're requesting, and then you don't give up. You do not back down. You do not accept the things that they say. You do not believe everything that they say. I had a parent talk to me today, and she called me, and her situation's pretty rough. And she said, that the school told her she could not ask for an IEP more than once a year. The school told her that, well, they didn't give her any progress reports ever. They have not let her, they haven't done evaluations. Anything that she's asked in regards to data, she's not provided data. And, you know, like I said to her today, I said, so they know that you don't know. And so they're using that. They're running with it. That's what happened. All right. And once they know that you don't know, it's kind of like you're screwed at that point because it's very difficult to bounce back from that until you get somebody involved to get you to the point where you need to be. And then you can backtrack. All right. But once you blow that, which I did, I had to backtrack, but you know, a lot of that was my personality, you know? And when you have to basically kind of prove yourself that, oh, I know my shit now, and you better know your shit, you know? Or please bring somebody else in. But if you're at the point where the school knows that you didn't know your stuff, or you said something where they now know that you don't know your stuff, it's kind of a done deal. Because they've run with that. Okay. And then they'll tell you things, and then you're thinking that's how it is, and that's not how it is. And, you know, I mean, the things parents tell me that they're told, I just, what? I can't believe it, you know? And so those are the things that get me talking. Okay. Because a lot of it is the educational piece. But then again, teachers are actually, like today when we got off the call, like they actually all shook their heads today after I talked to them about the visualizing, verbalizing, the I do, you do, we do approach. And but I could also tell that the teacher did not know that approach. She had not approached that approach. And even though everybody shook their heads, and you know who shook their head the most was that speech therapist. I mean, and they recorded, I recorded, so I can say this is, I mean, on recording, like I saw her face. She smiled, she shook her head, she was like this, yes, like almost like, yes, finally someone said something. Like that was the reaction that I took in, you know, I'm assuming she didn't say it verbally, but that's the reaction. And so in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, well, speech therapists actually struggle if something's not happening academically. All right. And reading and speech go hand in hand. Okay. So it can cause a lot of frustration for a service provider if the educational and academic piece isn't being approached in a way that's individualized and appropriate for that child. Okay. And we don't know what that is until we figure it out. Not everybody's going to know, okay, you know, this child's going to learn this way, this child's going to learn this way, or this child's going to learn this way. That's why in special ed, groups do not work. They don't work. They don't work. They don't work. They don't work. Okay? Group therapy in special education, especially with speech, occupational therapy, or physical therapy, does not work. If somebody can prove to me that some service provider has this like miracle stuff in them where they can abide by 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different children's IEPs, give them the time that is stated of that service in the IEP, plus accomplish all of those 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different children's goals from the IEP, and provide the time of service that each child, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 children, state in their IEP, and implement all of those IEPs with fidelity. Oh, I want that person on my team. Please send them to me. I want to give my daughter that speech therapist or that occupational therapist, because obviously they're a miracle worker. So yet no school team has been able to prove to me that that speech OT or physical therapist can actually serve 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different children, even 2, abide by that IEP with fidelity, follow it to a T. Say one child has 15 minutes, one child has 30. One child has 3 goals, one child has 1. One child has 4, one has 5. One's nonverbal, one's verbal. How the hell are you going to follow that IEP with fidelity? Not happening. It is not happening. So I will argue group therapy till I'm blue in the face, till pigs all of a sudden get to fly, because it doesn't work. Unless you can prove to me that it can work, and it's not going to be done on my watch. Not happening. In regards to specialized instruction, a lot of school districts, and gets me talking some more, specialized instruction and the legalities of it. I actually have it in my book right here. All right. There's legal aspects to specially designed instruction. Specially designed instruction is instruction that's given to your child outside of the educational setting, gen ed or special ed, in, say, a resource room or somewhere else. And instruction is given to your child in a way that is catered to their needs in a academic area in which they struggle. Typically it's math or reading. Okay. Some districts will say a student struggles with like ELA, but that's more, it ends up being reading. Okay. And so a fight is getting a child specially designed instruction outside of the classroom, because schools want to argue, well, we want to, keep the child in the classroom as much as possible. Yes, we do. But unfortunately, this child has a disability, and this child needs specially designed instruction in order to be in the classroom, in order to be in a gen ed classroom with like peers, with typical peers. But without that specially designed instruction being taken out of the classroom, they're not going to be able to acclimate and be able to be productive in a typical gen ed setting. If they are lacking so much to where the modifications are so extensive, it just becomes unproductive. And again, one of the things again that gets me talking some more is the mental aspect of it, the emotional aspect of it, the psyche, where we don't know the extent in which that child, impacted or not, extensively impacted or not, how, especially if they're not talking or not fluent in speech or able to describe feelings, which we all know for children with disabilities or specifically autism, can describe. Okay. And it's difficult because I look at, okay, if you put a child in a gen ed setting, all right, because I look at, okay, what is the best thing for this child? Where is it that they're going to learn? How are they going to learn best? In what way are they going to learn? By whom, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. I have to look at the whole picture. I can't just look at, oh, that's the teacher, that's the service provider, that's the OT. I can't do all that. I got to look at, if I had to create an individual program for this child, what is that program going to be? What does it look like? And who needs to deliver it in order for it to be provided in the way in which this child learns? Sorry, my puppy's barking. And so that's what I look at. Now they're looking at keeping the child in the classroom. Don't move them from the classroom. Let's generalize. Let's push in. God, I hate that freaking word. Let's push in and, have the OT or the speech therapist push into the classroom and that, just think about this for a second. All right. And this is going to create arguments for you guys in an IEP meeting. I'm so sorry. But you got to look at things in a way that is not how they're explaining it to you. Okay. So look at it like this. Say your child's in gen ed. Say your child, and the reason I'm telling you this is because these are arguments that I have all the time. This is why I talk and don't shut up, because I'm sitting there trying to teach them a damn lesson. And I am very logical. It has to make sense. If it doesn't, I will ask them, paint that picture for me, explain it to me so I can see it in my head. Have them do that for you. All right. So you can picture it. Now think about this. All right. Shut your eyes and picture this. You have a child. Doesn't matter what their disability is. Say they're in gen ed. All right. And then they're taken out for speech and OT. That's a beautiful situation because they're taken out for something that is of a need for them. In order to serve that need, they're able to be taken out of that classroom, given direct one-to-one, hopefully. Let's just say hopefully they have one-on-one. And then they're brought back into the classroom to then do everything that they normally do. Okay. Well, one would argue, school district, well, we don't want to take them out of the class because they're going to miss all this. This, and this. They're going to miss all that. They're going to miss it. We can't have them miss that. We just can't have them do that. We need to generalize. We need to make sure that they stay in the classroom with all their friends. If a child needs speech therapy or occupational therapy, let's just say occupational therapy for sensory, all right, that sensory is going to affect them in the educational setting, that classroom with their friends where you want to keep them. So if you want to keep them in that classroom, you better give them that therapy. Okay? Or that classroom setting is not going to eventually fit because of that child's sensory is going to continue to increase, possibly get worse, possibly cause behavior issues, and it's going to spiral. Take a child with speech issues. All right? They're in the gen ed setting. You're hearing, oh, we got to generalize them. We got to push in. The speech therapist or the occupational therapist has to push in. Now, that's a whole different box of tricks. But let's just say they're taken out for speech therapy. All right. They're taken out for, let's just say, pragmatics. They're taken out and, that is what they're getting direct speech therapy for. Then they're brought back into the classroom and they're acclimated like everything else. Post your questions below if you have any questions. Okay. And now we have a child that's taken out for speech therapy for, let's just say, pragmatics, and they are learning what it is that they need to learn. Why? Because they then get to bring that knowledge back into the classroom so they can generalize, so they can fit in, so they can be better in that gen ed classroom. Without that separate therapy, they're then not able to improve in the deficit area. Speech, which is very important. Sensory, OT, is very important. All right, that can impact that child in the educational setting. So we have to solve that problem. You can't always solve a problem and not create or hypothesize a possible other problem. And what I mean by that is their hypothesis is we think that if you take them out of the classroom that they're going to miss all this stuff. And so we don't want them to go to therapy because we don't want them to miss all this stuff. Okay, well, if you have the therapist come into the classroom, now picture this, okay? You have them come into the classroom, OT, speech, whatever. All right. Into a gen ed classroom. 20 plus kids. All right. And nowadays you got non-licensed teachers teaching. You have substitutes teaching. You have people that probably hasn't even seen your child's IEP teaching. And now you got push in. And that's not it. Let's just say it's a gen ed teacher. I think that push in, this is my opinion. Anybody want to argue it? If you're a speech therapist, occupational therapist, please chime in. I'd love to hear what you have to say. And I'm being serious and honest and open. And I'd love to hear if there's an argument there. I love a good debate, healthy one, positive one, but I love a good debate. But here's my thoughts. And being an educator, having been an educator, and then looking at the care and thought of an educator, you're coming into my classroom to push in and support that child with pragmatics or sensory or writing or whatever. All right. So first thing that crosses my mind is my kid's going to be embarrassed as hell. You're coming in, working directly with my kid or with 3 or 4 kids, and they're all being put on the spot, so to speak. This is how I look at it. They're being put on the spot to write or this, that, and the other, and being taught by the speech therapist. And the teacher's still teaching. You tell me how that's not distracting to the teacher. You tell me how that's not distracting to the other children. You tell me how that could possibly not emotionally affect the child that is getting speech or OT push in that classroom. Prove to me that that child who you're pushing in to give therapies to, that children or child, prove to me that it doesn't affect them emotionally, that they're possibly embarrassed that you're coming in to teach them to write better or working on their hand grip and their tripod grasp and their strength in their writing or them writing more clearly or whatever the goal is, and putting them in that position with a group of 20 plus kids. Tell me how that's healthy for anybody. I would personally, and I have no disabilities, I would not want a teacher or a service provider if I was a 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13-year-old, okay? Even at the age of 5, 6, and 7, they know that they're being, kind of selected. And, as they get older, of course, it affects them more. And that's not possibly embarrassing, So that's number 1 with push-in. Number 2 is the distraction of that speech OT or whomever in that classroom to other children. Because part of idea is, does your child's disability impact them in the educational setting or impact others in the educational setting? Not just them. So if your child's disability needs speech, or because their impacted disability needs speech or needs to, yes, we're going to, I promise. Then that person coming into that classroom to push in is affecting them emotionally and making them feel kind of, selected and put on the spot or embarrassed or whatever. That's a big deal. Okay. Then if they're distracting the teacher, that's a big deal. But the teacher's not going to say anything because she can't change it. And then you have where it's and there's no way that it's not distracting other children. Now, the teacher may deny it because she didn't have a choice or he doesn't have a choice. They got a deal. But I can guarantee you that it's bothering the children. There's no way a speech or Rocco, come here. Rocco. There's no way a speech or OT can go into a classroom, let's just say 1st, 2nd, 3rd graders especially. Oh my God, it's going to distract the heck out of them. Now at 4th, 5th, 6th grade, possibly they can try to stay focused, even though they're kind of looking over. They're maybe laughing or talking to each other or whatever the case is. If you don't think that's how kids are, of course it is. So tell me how that's productive. I do not see my child having any type of progress with a push-in service to keep them in the gen ed setting to generalize. The way in which to bring that LEA, if you will, because they'll use that excuse too. And I got to get off here because I try to get off after an hour. But if you're going to use the bullshit, oh, we gotta put them in the least restrictive environment. You damn right you do. But that doesn't mean that services or accommodations get hit because you need to provide the least restrictive environment. Because if a more restrictive environment is required, then that is okay. There just has to be a reason. Or if services are necessary in order to meet that child's individual needs, then that is okay to remove them from the gen ed setting for the 30 minutes or whatever it is for that service because it's needed and appropriate. Okay? There's no, oh, we have to do the least restrictive environment. We got to do it. We got to do it. We can't not do it. Okay? Because we're not going to do it if you ask me again. Okay. Going upstairs, I'll call you. So there's no solution to meeting a child's individual need if you're going to disturb everything else around them. So those are things that are important. Those are things that keep me talking. All right. So think about those things when you're in an IEP meeting with your kids. All right. Think about what makes logical sense. Okay. Because that is what's going to then help you in that advocating for your child. Because if it doesn't make sense, it probably is not going to work. Okay? But then that's when you're thrown LRE, generalizing. We got to push in because we don't want to take them out of the class. And I say to them, so if the child can't talk, how the hell is being in the gen ed classroom going to be productive for them? If they're not working with their assistive technology device with the speech therapist, if they're not working on their sensory and movement or anything really, whatever it is that they need to work on, writing, their grasp, weakness in writing. Okay, these are things that need to be worked on individually so that they can improve quicker and then go implement what they've learned in the classroom. Teach them individually, give them that freaking time, help them, support them, give them that service so that they can then transfer it into the gen ed setting. And then they're able to show what they've learned versus push in and all the problems that can come with that. Because I can tell you right now, teachers have bitched about it. They don't to their administration. They don't at school. But boy, do they hate push-in services. All right. Jake. My dogs are fighting. My little puppy just raises hell in this house. Jake. Come here, Jake. My puppy's jumping on my older dog. Go. And so it's one of those things where you have got to really think about what's being said to you. And if it doesn't make sense, don't accept it. Okay? I will argue and argue and argue and argue and argue. Okay? About services and how they're provided. All right? Because I don't fall for the bullshit. All right? Now, by all means, if you can prove me wrong, and I am out in left field, and you're not disturbing all the kids, and you're just fitting in, and you can prove to me that you pinpointing that child and selecting them and working with them individually or in a group in the gen ed setting is not affecting them emotionally, okay, let's try it. But if you can't prove to me that it's not affecting them emotionally, or you can't prove to me that there's been significant progress, or there's not much progress, and you're seeing that the child is each and every year, okay, they went up to 4th grade, but now they're in 6th grade. They moved up to 5th grade. Now they're in 7th grade. They moved up to 6th grade. Now they're in 9th grade. So do you see the pattern of how they stay in that same spot? They're not moving. They're growing in grade, but they're not moving in the deficit and how far behind they are. Okay, so progress is closing the gap. Progress is not staying in the same gap, just moving up grade. Okay, so there you have it. That's what keeps me talking. The less problems we start having, the more sense that hopefully starts to happen in the school setting, and they can make sense of what they're doing, and they can prove that progress is happening, then awesome. Hey, come here. But do not tell me, okay, here's something funny. And I'm going to leave it at this. So I'm in an IEP meeting, and they did not provide me with this benchmark test that they had done. And so I'm ready with all the documents, all the evaluations, et cetera, et cetera. And this teacher's going off of, well, according to, and she was reading this stuff, and I didn't know what she was talking about. I was like trying to find in all my documents that I had in front of me what the hell she was talking about. And finally I said, what page are you on? Oh, I'm going off of such and such benchmark that I gave her. Oh, what's that? And it's just a benchmark I gave her to kind of show me, where she is, and it helped me create the goals. What? She's been formally evaluated, and you just did some benchmark thing that you didn't provide to the parent and myself before the IEP meeting in order for us to participate as equal team members. You're then bringing it up in the IEP meeting on how you created the goals and came up with the goals, negating and leaving out all the formal evaluations that were just done because you did some sort of freaking computer assessment. Come again? And I was like, I don't care about that assessment. I don't care what it says. I don't care. I don't care. I don't care. Whatever it was you did, send me a copy. But we sure as hell ain't creating goals off of it. That's for sure. Because number one, you just removed the parent as an equal team member. All right, forget about me. You remove the parent as an equal team member because she nor I have seen this so-called benchmark test that, the ones that they do to progress monitor. There's Lexia. There's, there's different ones. There's Ames Web. There's different ones. Okay. And so, which those are all fine and dandy, but they are subjective. Okay. They go up in grade level based on the child, how they're answering questions, this, that, and the other. Typically, the schools will not give you all of the reports. So look up the darn assessment. If it's Ames Web, Google it. I have if you want a copy, I have the whole formal kind of layout of what you're supposed to get to see where that child is. Because they'll just give you like a piece of paper. They'll say, oh, here. And you think that that's all. Mm-mm. All right. It's like usually anywhere from 6 to 8 different color-coded things you're supposed to get that show you what date the child took it, when they took it in the beginning of the school year, middle of the school year, end of the school year, how they rated, what grade level it's on. There's so much that you should be seeing that they don't show you any of that. ever. Not one parent have I ever seen all the pages that you're supposed to get in the summary reports and everything else that go with these computer-based kind of assessments. All right. So be mindful of that. Okay. Again, today, even though this is a team that I get along well with, and we are working together collaboratively, that doesn't mean without hiccups or anything. Hey guys, stop. That there are hiccups. Okay. And what happened today, even though I let it go because we are working together. I'm just going to, there's some that I leave alone. All right. Not most, I don't. But because this team has done right by the child with how this IEP is being put together, I'm letting some things ride. Because at the end of the day, all I care about is that IEP coming together the way I want it to. Okay. But if it was a team that was fighting me every step of the way and just being jerks, hell no, I wouldn't let them get away with nothing. All right. So it's all in how they work with me. Okay. I will give you the respect and be more understanding and let some things slide if you're giving me what I know is needed and appropriate for that child. And too, you just didn't do it. Okay. Now, so what they did real quick. She, in the last meeting, which was on 127, we went over all of the present levels, which they put everything in there from their assessments that I wanted in there to show the deficits. Well, they were taking notes, which is why I like it when they share their page with their program in which they enter their IEPs into, so that it can then be done on the spot. But a lot of times they won't do that, so they're take notes, and then typically it's just not all accurate. So they didn't send us, like they said they would, the updated from the notes that they took on 127. So I was super frustrated because they then show us right when the meeting started. I hadn't been able to review it. I was livid. All right. But I finally, I pulled up my recording and, I record everything on Loom. So I was able to pull up the transcription and kind of read through what it was we talked about. So what we're now going to do is we're going to create a Google Doc. We're going to collaborate and everybody's going to be on that to make comments, and it's going to be put together appropriately. But do you see how they did something wrong, but now they're doing something right in order to get that stuff into the IEP that we had already discussed? They didn't deny it. They didn't say, oh, we didn't say that we were going to do that. I mean, we both recorded. And, even though it's unproductive not putting it directly into the system, sometimes they can't pull it up, et cetera, et cetera. And so I let it go because they're creating the Google Drive and the doc. We're going to all collaborate. I'm going to put in what it is that was missed, which does create a little bit extra work, but they're willing to do it. And I'm willing to do the extra work if they're going to do it. And the IEP is going to be put together for this child that is completely on point. And the BCBA is a freaking rock star. Thank God. And because this child is, her behavior's the biggest impact for her. So that's what keeps me running my mouth. Okay. So hopefully you guys learned something in this hour and 19 minutes. Hopefully something you can take with you. Make sure you share this. Don't forget, post a 1 below if it's your first through third time catching me live. Post a 2 below if you're an oldie but goodie. Make sure you say hi. Tell me where you're from. Tell me about your kids. And definitely share this to somebody that it could possibly help. And help them in getting their children's IEPs on point. Okay. On point. Okay. One thing. And this, if you pass anything out, all right. Yeah. You probably hope took a lot from today. Maybe you're not digesting it all and you're going to have to go back and watch it again, probably like I would if I was learning all of this stuff, because that's what I had to do. I mean, I was like, what was just said? I don't understand that. Let me listen to that again. So what I want you to understand, and remember I told you I had mentored with a top attorney in New York that I had to pay a shit ton of money for, but I'm always about learning more. I don't know everything. Sure, I'm a great advocate, but I do not know everything and never will say I know everything. And it's just, I love to learn. I love to keep becoming better so that I can help kids. So bottom line, one thing he told me was about that case in regards to assessments. All right. If I haven't told you about that, ask me later. Which is huge, huge. All right. I've used it in every IEP since in regards to formal evaluations. Huge case. Most people don't know about it. Due process case where the parents won everything because of this. All right. The other thing that he taught me that I did not know, I didn't know about this case and what he had said. And I did not know about this. I always have known that everything about the IEP is from the present level. You cannot create an IEP without on point present levels to a T. School districts will fight. We're not adding all that. I've had them say, we're not adding all that. We don't need to add all that. All that doesn't need to be there. We're creating goals from the evaluations. They're on the evaluations. We don't need to add that to the IEP. We don't need to put that in there. It's already in the evaluations. Bullshit. Yes, you do. The evaluations are they're a separate entity. They are what they are. Those present levels, all of those evaluation scores have to go into the IEP. All the things that are within the notes and summaries and everything else and the scoring. So, okay, the scoring, here's a tip. All the scoring has to go into the IEP of your latest evaluation. All right. And all the bullshit that it says, average, well below average, blah, 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 blah. All right. Don't even listen to that shit. Look at one thing that I like to look at is where does your child fall nationally? Okay. Not that it matters who they compare to, but at least know where they fall nationally in comparison to other kids, their age out of 100. So if it says that your child is at a 13 or a 10 or a 9 or a 1, or I've even seen the negative 1, hello, there's a problem. But do you know I've seen the negative 1 and it say average, or I've seen it say low average? Like, are you kidding me? It's low average. It's low average. Child's negative 1, but it is low average, y'all. I'm like, yeah, okay, I'm not dumb, people. Like, I mean, what kills me with that is how a psychologist will sit and tell you that it's low average. It's low average. It's low average. Your child's negative 1, but it's low average. Don't forget. And sorry, it just cracks me up on the stupid shit that they'll say. And we'll talk about assessments on another day. Go, guys, stop. Look, at night, he becomes crazy psycho dog. Look at this little puppy. All right, look at him. He's all psycho crazy. He's a Yorkie poo. He's nuts in the evening. Calm all day, sleeps all day, nutso at night. Like, I'm like, what the heck did you take? Nuts. So that's that. Okay, guys. So hopefully that helped you. So, I didn't even tell you. Okay. So if your child's present levels are not on point, here it is. All right. See, I get caught up in my own. See, that's how much I talk. If your child has present levels, all right, and they say whatever they say, okay, and they don't have everything that needs to be in there, all that stuff that is argued that, because I'm picky about if it says that child has processing concerns and it's kind of like all over the place, significant deficit in and processing of information, working memory, whatever the deficits are, I grab them, all of them, whatever they are. Okay? The deficits, say there's 100 deficits. Just ride with me, okay? Does that mean the child's going to have 100 goals? No. We pick and choose. Yes, we got to pick and choose, okay? The child cannot have 100 goals. So if there's 100 deficits, we pick what is the most functional goals and most important academic goals that we need to focus on in order to meet IDEA requirements at the end of the day. What do we want? A productive adult, one that's acclimated and gonna fit into society as best as possible, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Okay? So, okay, does a child need to learn how to read? Yep. Okay? Wherever that need is that I just picked from the evaluations, reading goals would be number one. Math. Does a child need to know basic math? All right. I've had to say to parents where the children are pretty impacted. Okay. At the end of the day, your child just needs to learn how to add, subtract, multiply, divide, and do fractions. That's it. No one gives a rat's butt about multiplication. Never used it in my life other than on a calculator, because I don't care about doing it in my head if I can't do it in my head. I can do, in my head. But does it matter? Is it really going to affect me if I don't use a calculator? Yeah, no, it's not. All right. If I can't do X, Y times whatever in algebra, is that going to affect me in life? No. But if I can't add or subtract or divide or just basic multiply, can I do 2-digit multiplication in my head? No, I suck at math. Okay. But if I didn't know how, like counting money is another one. Counting money is a functional goal. Make sure every child has that in their IEP at some stage. All right. Counting money, identifying money, learning how to exchange money based on something that they bought. They bought, a toy for $4.99. They're given a $10 bill. How much do, they get back in return? Blah, blah, blah. Those are things that they need to learn. All right. That's a functional math goal. All right. A academic math goal would be more addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, fractions. All right. So then what's next? Speech is very important. So you have to build goals based on the importance of what is it that that's going to make the most sense and help them be the most productive. And then once they master those goals, then you build to others. Okay. So just because all deficits I want in the present levels doesn't mean all of that is created in the goals. Okay. What it is it puts it into the present levels so that it is actually noted. Because if you ever want to hold the school system accountable for not doing something and it's not in the present levels of being a deficit, you are shit out of luck, because you agreed, signed that IEP, agreed to that IEP, whatever it is that your state mandates. It went into play in 5 days, went into play in 10 days, whatever it is, you agreed to it. So don't go arguing it now, or go change it real quick, because you are accountable for what you agreed to. Don't try to hold somebody accountable for something that you agreed to. And if no deficits or specific deficits or the deficits that your child has are not in those present levels, don't try to hold the school system accountable, because you will more than likely lose. That is what I learned. I knew the present levels were important. I knew all the deficits had to be in there, because I knew that that's what creates the goals. That's what creates the IEP. That's what notates, hey, this child needs this service. This child needs this service. This child needs goals for this. This child has working memory issues. This child has executive functioning issues. But I didn't know that if a parent wanted to hold a school system accountable for a deficit that may not be in a goal, right? Are you following me? So this may be a deficit not put into a goal, but it's a deficit that your child has. And something happens, something transpires, you need to hold them accountable in regards to this, not due process or anything like that. I mean, it could lead to due process, but what I'm referencing is maybe you need to create a goal on it. Maybe, you're seeing something more severe going on, especially with executive functioning, working memory, which is reading, writing, written expression. Executive functioning is that captain of the ship. That captain has to steer that ship to what? End place. Okay. They have to take them to the end, to a place, to, whatever, location, whatever. Same thing with education. That education needs to take them somewhere, all right, to make progress, to take them to the next grade level, to whatever it is, all right. If there's no executive functioning going on and there's a huge deficit there, your child is not going to take off. They're not going to move forward. They're not going to make progress because they're having trouble steering that ship. Their ship is the academics and services. If they can't steer the ship, they're not going to move forward. Got it? All right. So you guys have a nice night. Hopefully you learned something. Post below what maybe tip or trick or something that was enlightening that you learned. Share this to help others, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Bye-bye.